Thank you, Pastor Dean. Thank you all for being a member of Jonah. Jonah is an interfaith organization, and that was important to me when I got involved with Jonah in its beginnings in 2007 in this community. So we just celebrated our 11th year. But we recognize all faiths, and our goal is to be diverse in learning how other faith communities come together. And so our mission, vision, is to organize diverse people around common values. We identify those common values as a belief in the infinite dignity of all human life. We have an opposition to all forms of oppression and inequity. We believe that we are stewards of the natural world. We value in the ethics of shared abundance, and we trust in the triumph of love and hope over cynicism, hate, and fear. The majority of our membership is connected to a faith community. There are currently 19 faith communities that are part of Jonah, and that includes Grace Lutheran. Wisdom is our state organization. There's 11 affiliates like Jonah throughout the state. And Wisdom is a group of faith people united by their passion for social justice, a commitment to the community, and a practice of hope. So we stand together understanding that our lives and our destinies are intertwined. Like Pastor Dean said, it's not just on Sunday morning, it's in all aspects of our lives. We partner with government agencies, nonprofits, and community groups to change policy and procedures to better the lives of our community members. We have a motto: when we all do better, we all do better. And what helped me to really understand the work of Jonah was to look at charity versus social justice. The church and its members are really good at charity. So how is the work of Jonah different from that? So I have an example that really helped me understand the difference. Feeding the hungry, the community table. They just celebrated 25 years in our community, and they do a great job. And maybe you have teams here who serve a community table. Well, Jonah's work is to take a look at why does this community have a need for a community table? What's the underlying deeper issue that's involved? Is it that there's not enough food? Is it the distribution of food? Is it maybe that we don't have a living wage? I know people, when we have bills to be met, there's things like mortgages and rent and utilities where you can't cut costs. Those are set. Food is one area that you can cut your costs. Is it the inability to obtain a job, hold a job, so that you don't have a wage to live on? Is mental illness a part of that reason? So there's many ways to look at what are underlying reasons that we have issues that affect people in our community. And so Jonah worked to understand those underlying issues and what solutions need to be brought to address those. Jonah also includes and asks those who are impacted, those who have to go to the community table. We want to join with those people in getting their input. So Lynn Buskey is our paid organizer, our employee, and she's here to share some of the current projects we're involved in and how you, as members of Grace, can be involved. So Lynn?
Thank you, Sandy. Good morning. I have been in your beautiful building before when come to see Luther College come with one of their concerts. I went to Luther, so it's always nice to see them in our community, and it's good to be back. So yes, I want to talk to you a bit more specifically about the work that we do in Jonah. We rise to the call of our community based on what's happening or what's not being addressed, or it may be unseen, what comes to our attention, and what's our passion. Our issue work evolves around the core values that Sandra spoke about, and it's empowered by people who've had experience with the issue that's being worked on. Our task forces are one place that these efforts are put forth. Current initiatives that we have through our task forces is an immigration task force, rising to the need of all people in our community. Their goals are to build relationships between immigrants, community members, and officials, and providing information to immigrant families to prevent unnecessary trauma, and sharing immigrant stories through the arts, and to advocate for just immigration laws, helping immigrants navigate the community safely and fairly. Our recently formed Affordable Housing Task Force works to find solutions to the shortage of affordable housing as a means to addressing the rising homelessness in Eau Claire. We have managed already in just a few months to bring many people together of various skills and backgrounds to have conversations about this. And our work will continue by building relationships, sharing stories of those lacking this, suffering from this lack of housing, and empowering people who can bring more affordable housing to the community to do so. We also have an environmental task force that's been rising and falling depending on people who have an interest in it. And we are in the process of growing that again. So those who feel a passionate call to care for our earth are asked to join us with that at this time. And then there's a statewide campaign around ending child poverty. So back in 2017, my papers are stuck together. Wisdom, our parent organization, along with the Wisconsin Council of Churches and Kids Forward and Citizen Action of Wisconsin Education Fund, wanted to respond to these rising numbers in Wisconsin of children in poverty that continued to grow without any legislative response. There was so many efforts growing in means to feeding and clothing children, but not giving them a home or a solution. So in 2017, these groups hosted a 2-year conversation around the state on poverty. 24 forums all over with over 1,200 participants. And through these conversations, it was learned that who was poor, the prevalence of poverty and its causes, the racial inequalities that exist in that issue, and a history of the efforts to reduce poverty. And through those, it was discovered that the children are the poorest people in America. Seniors used to be that poorest group, but with some solid efforts over the past couple decades, that improved. And our children now need this kind of effort. Closer to home here in Eau Claire, let's see here. Well, first, some numbers for Wisconsin. A Wisconsin poverty report came out just this June, showing that Wisconsin's poverty rate rose 10.8% in 2016 from 9.7% in 2015. That's a 20% increase for children. It's the highest in 30 years. And additionally, each year the Eau Claire Area School District serves approximately 250 homeless children and youth and more than 3,000 students who are living at or below the poverty level in Eau Claire. This is a moral crisis. So these 4 groups left these conversations with their hearts heavy, but with a clear goal to ask legislators to take action towards ending child poverty. So they set up a petition that people all over Wisconsin are signing. The petition asks Wisconsin legislators to adopt a 3-part goal. 1, to reduce child poverty in half in 10 years. 2, to reduce racial disparities in child poverty in half at that same time. And 3, to establish a reliable, independent mechanism to report our progress in this area and have an annual report. And why this goal? Because legislators are the ones most capable of determining, implementing, and measuring the changes that are needed quickly and to positively impact the well-being of our children. No Jonah's involvement there. We see this and we care about our children in our community, and we meet people who have these experiences, and we feel that sharing those stories and understanding that helps us all understand how can we better think around this problem. So there's a group of folks in Jonah who are trying to organize a task force around ending child poverty. They're giving presentations in the community on this topic. There's a petition out at the back table that's been circulating around that can be signed. And we ask other people who are interested in helping on this specific problem to talk about it, to talk with people who might be suffering from that, and to consider joining us in that effort. I'm going to go a little longer than Dean and Sandra did. Another way our issue work occurs is through our core teams. A core team is a group of leaders in a Jonah member congregation, like Grace, working towards creating hope and change in their community. They're a finger of the organization, but a very strong one. Jonah offers core teams training to help guide on how they work on issues that are important to their congregation, and then connects them to the people in support of a larger organization. We have core teams that have produced community discussions alongside neighborhood high school students around nonviolence and anti-gun violence. There have been forums held by core teams on mental health and homelessness in our community, and it was one of those core teams that started our Affordable Housing Task Force, among other things. So core teams connect the people of a faith organization to the values of Jonah, joining people around issues so we can improve the lives of all. Core teams take outreach groups to an upstream level and can accomplish so much because of the larger numbers of people and resources that they can connect to. A final way that we produce our issue work in Jonah is by planting seeds that empower others to share their stories or give their 2 cents, by building relationships in the community, one person at a time, neighbors, immigrants, police officers, politicians, single mothers, etc., and by providing leadership training. In leadership training, we give people tools to help them embark on working on change, helping them identify what's really important to them that they want to work on, places where to begin when examining how to help, how to think around a problem, and how to connect with others who also want to change such things, how to run a meeting so that action can happen, and navigating who could have influence over this changing issue. We train people so that there's not any one person doing the work, but many. And we grow leaders because we believe that anyone is capable of helping create positive change for all and grow leadership. There are many issues in our world, state, neighborhood that touch us, that anger us, and we really have the capacity and the right, each one of us, to stand up for ourselves or alongside another to improve those issues, to bring hope and eventually peace. We do not have to let children be hungry, our friends be poor, our earth to perish, our neighbors to fight, or ourselves to be without work. We can all agree on these values. We can put all our differences aside and produce positive results. We can be the stewards of life that God asks us to be and take care of ourselves and each other. To do so means doing something, taking action. What do you care about? What example of your lives do you want to set? Who does this congregation want to service and really change their lives? Becoming a part of Jonah has taught me that it's my responsibility as a child of God to take care of God's creation and to step up with faithful guidance where others may not tread. Jonah is full of compassionate people to support individuals wishing to do this but aren't sure how. In Jonah, we welcome everyone with these values. Wherever you've come from, we can connect on these values that unite us. Your choir was very beautiful and moving. And what struck me was the full sound that your choir had. And it was clear to me that each person in that choir held their strong voice. And it was those strong, clear voices together that made such a beautiful sound. And I really think as Christians, our work in the community can be like that if we all each have our strong, clear voice.